Hey, welcome to Real Talk. This is with George and Frazier. Frazier will be joining us shortly. He just had to log back out and log back on. Sorry about the hiccup in the beginning. We do apologize. Something happened with the internet connection, but we are still here and we're good to go. Today we got a great show as always. Mr. How do I say this? Mr. Flipside. How you doing, sir? Welcome
I'm
to the
good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. And pretty good. Thanks for being with us. Absolutely. Um, Tell us, the fans, a little bit about yourself and your bio. I say it every show. Every time Frazier and I try to do this, we mess it up.
My name is Robert Flipside Daniels. I use my government name because my mother always wanted me to use my name. She's like, "Who's this Flipside guy? That's not you." All right. I'm. I was born in Vegas, Las Vegas, at Nellis Air Force Base. I'm a military brat. Raised in California. Spent much of my early days in California. I moved to Arizona 21 years ago.
Okay.
And I live in Mesa, Arizona right now. It's awesome. And I am a poet. I am a trained journalist, so I've been writing my entire life. Uh, I love what I do. It's
Right.
a, it's a great gig to be able to do whatever it is you want to do and still have people pay money for it. I get to teach the young people. So I've been teaching for several years. Now I'm doing an after-school program, so I'm teaching the youth in a different fashion, but it's still poetry. I'm teaching them poetry. I've written a book. Uh, I have a business that I'm involved in called Black Poet Ventures. I'm a co-founder, and we do poetic theater. We're on hiatus for obvious reasons,
Hmm.
but it's a good gig as well. Doing we basically do Shakespeare on stage, but we write our own shows, so we don't use language that is weird and hard to to understand. So that's
Well, yeah, I definitely have a lot of questions there because one, the educational aspect of it is always intriguing to me. Is how you can shape other people and the minds that they have. Because learning, there's two things. As we're learning on this show, we have a lot of people that come in, educators and things of that nature, and the teachers. Kids are struggling with learning because of the environment that they're learning in, online environment, so to speak. And I'll say it again. I truly did not know that suicide in elementary school, middle school, or high school was a thing simply because you couldn't go to school and see your friends. I just didn't know that, you
right.
know, and it's just, I'm still flabbergasted by that, just to be honest, because, you know, for my own kids, when they were like, you guys are not going to school and you guys are going to be online, we had a party here for like 3 days. They wouldn't sleep, they wouldn't do anything. You know what I mean? They was like, man, look, I don't have to do this, but to learn that there are people that are struggling with that, I'm leading that into my question. How is the online learning portion um, affecting you and affecting your students?
It affects me greatly because I'm a people person. I love to be around people. I love to be able to see smiles and be able to hug people. So
Mhm.
it affects me greatly because it changes the way that I have to approach learning and teaching. Um, but as far as the students go, it affects them in different ways
Mhm.
because there are a certain number of students who have um, let's say anxiety
Mhm.
around other people and in big crowds. So some of them are flourishing right now in the environment in which they are not around a lot of people. They can be at their own house and learn at their own pace. Uh, some of them are flourishing in that in that realm, but for the most part, the kids are struggling with the fact that they don't get to see their friends on a consistent basis. You know, people don't understand how important human touch is.
Mhm.
When we walk into a room and we greet each other, we give each other a pound, we give each other a handshake, a hug. That's important. That raises
Right.
the endorphins in our body. It makes us happier. So when you don't have that, it sort of works in the opposite fashion. People become more depressed. People become more withdrawn, and so it's tough for a lot of people. My daughter, especially, there's my daughter right there, right that way. She is she struggled with being online because she's so much like me that when she wasn't able to be around people and be the social butterfly that she is, it was difficult. Now
Right.
she's back in class and she's flourishing again. She didn't not flourish uh, online. She was still a very good student, but I could see the difference. She would get a little more anxious. She would get a little more
Right.
agitated throughout the
Mhm.
day. I don't want to do this. My daughter is 7, so she struggled with it, and also she's very very smart. So she's kind of like the teacher asked her to help the other students who are struggling when they're doing group projects, and she loves that part. And when she wasn't able to do that, it took away a little bit of her happiness. So, so some of the kids are flourishing, but for the most part, they're struggling with the lack of human interaction.
Nice. Um, yeah, we're seeing the same thing here. You know, I'm in New Jersey, so we went on lockdown, then we came off a little bit. We did um, we're on hybrid right now, where we're 5 days a week, but it's half a day, so the kids are home between 12 and 2 o'clock. But hey, Fresh,
Hey,
but
what's going on, bro?
What's happening?
but we're seeing some of the same things you're seeing in school, as far as the kids are doing better when they're in school, and then as opposed to them just being online completely. Because the things that we struggled with online was the fact accessibility. You
Yes.
know, I didn't realize that teachers, well, I did realize, but I just figured it was all teaching anyway. But teachers have more work to do when it's online than it is in a class, because when it's class, it's over. But when it's online, you have to do the online portion, then you have to take another portion for answering emails, phone calls, grading, this, that, and the third offline, and it was very challenging with that. But I also want to transition into another space. I said I have many questions, pardon me. Um,
I'm, trust me, I'm a journalist. I'm down with questions. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So that's where I was going to get to. Journalism. Was it just you wanted a backup plan in case poetry didn't work? Why journalism?
I actually started writing. I started my own music magazine. I co-founded a music magazine called Fat Magazine when I was
Nice.
16 years old. And my friend Shaki Abdul, shout out to Shaki, he and I started working on this music magazine. And just basically because we wanted to get into shows for free. That's really the reason how we started.
That's smart though. That's smart though.
When you're 16 years old, you just want to get in free.
Right.
So that's why we started. And because I was in California, there was a lot of access to a lot of people. So, we started talking about it, and we're like, we should do this. And he was more the background guy, and I was the good person in front because I'm talkative, I'm charismatic, I think, to a degree. And so he would push me to the front, and he would sit in the back, and he would just be like, I just got that guy to pay us $1,000. I'm
Right.
like, cool.
Nice.
that was his job. And I was like, all right, you do that, I'll do this, and we'll be good. So I started at 16, and then when I went to college, I started. I was on the newspaper,
Mhm.
the school newspaper, and I was I was that guy who was like, the newspaper sucks when you do. And so they were like, if you could do better, you should come in and be part of it. So I was like, okay. So then I became the sports editor. So I was music for once, and then I did sports, and then I won an award for best sports article. I won for the West Coast. I won an award for best sports article, and then I was hooked. I was like, oh, awards too? Oh,
Yeah, now.
man. So that's when I I started doing the sports journalism. So I covered the Lakers, the Rams, the Raiders, all the local schools. So it was fun. I had a great time. Got good seats at games.
Absolutely.
He was in a box chilling.
And I'm at these shows, and then I'm going to these games. I was like, shoot, this is the way to go.
Right.
So I've been doing journalism. I just stopped. I retired from journalism a year and a half ago.
Nice.
And I was working for the black newspapers. I've always worked for black newspapers since college. And I just stopped a year and a half ago because I just had too much on my plate.
Right.
Yeah.
To do other things. So, but for almost 30 years, I was writing for black newspapers. So.
Nice.
So, poetry.
There you go. I know George gonna get it.
Oh yeah, I have a list. You know what I mean? I'm going to circle back to black journalism in a minute because I do want to talk about that. But I had a list of questions, right? And then you started talking, and I was like, I want to ask him that too. So, poetry. Did you start when you were young? Was it something that you just fell in love with? Was it being influenced by musicians, things of that nature?
No, I actually started writing poetry when I was about 12. Obviously in school you write poetry as a third, fourth, fifth grader, but I wasn't really all that interested. But then at 12 years old, my mom and I had kind of like a moment of reckoning where we realized things about each other. And so one day I had done something wrong. I messed up or whatever. So I brought my mother a flower home from, I just picked it along the route and I brought a flower.
Just to grab her, make sure man, it's not too bad.
Over, so to speak. and so he was cool with it. She was like, "Oh, that's very nice." And I was like, "It didn't get the reaction I wanted." So I was like, "Well, let me see if I can do something a little different." So I wrote a poem about the flower, and then and it was a sunflower. So it's big yellow, bright, bright yellow sunflower. And then so then I wrote about it. I don't even have the poem anymore, but my mom kept it.
Right.
But I wrote about it, and she then she sparked. She was like, "Oh, this is beautiful," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Great!" I made mom smile with this poem about the sunflower. So then for the next 5-6 weeks, I would bring a different flower, and I would write a poem about the flower.
Right.
Nice.
And my mother would, it was a carnation. It was a birds of paradise. My mother wasn't really into roses, but rose. I did all the flowers I could think of that were impressive for a 12-year-old kid.
Right.
And so dandelion, all that. So then it kept making my mother smile every time, and I was like, I think I found something.
Nice.
Right? So then I would just start writing poems, just because. And then when I was about 13, and I had written this poem to this girl.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
And then I was like, wow, this works all the time. so then I was just like, from then I was hooked. So I was like, okay, I'll find different things to write about. And then as time went on, you get upset about something, and then you write a rageful poem. Then you write, then you're like, oh, something happened on TV. I'll write about that. And so it just ended up me writing about many, many different subjects over time. And I just got into it, and I love it. And now it came to the point where I would just love to hear people speak poetry, and then I would watch it on any chance I got. My mother would put me in oratorical contest, and I'd go in there and I'd do a poem. You know what I mean? So so it all snowballed from there, and I love it. So I continue.
Nice. Nice.
And what about your business that you co-founded using poetry as a vehicle?
Yes. When I moved to Arizona, actually before I moved to Arizona, I fell in love with a woman who lived in Arizona. We met at a journalism conference. That's
Nice.
how that went down. So I fell in love with her, and we went back and forth for a couple of years. And then I decided to move to Arizona, and her and I were always, writing things together.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were like, oh yeah, we should do things. We should write things
Nice.
such and such. And so we would do things together. And then a couple other people got involved when I started working on this different magazine, which I became the editor in chief of, called People's Underground Beat, or Pub.
Mhm.
We called it Pub Magazine. And it was a music magazine. And so some of the writers that I was now in charge of, so to speak, we were all friends, so I wasn't in charge of anybody. But but the people that I was quote unquote in charge of, we started, collaborating, and some of them were poets, and so we would collaborate, and so it ended up being that 6 of us, two elders and
Mhm.
4 poets, we co-founded this company called Black Poet Ventures, and it's so much fun. And so what we would do is we would write poems. We'd pick a subject matter, and in the beginning it was about music.
Right.
We had, we would do like songs in the key of life.
Mhm.
So that was a popular Stevie Wonder album. So we would write poems that elicited the feelings that we got when we'd listened to these songs from that album, and then we would do a tribute to Stevie Wonder. And then so then it grew from there. We did tributes to Miles Davis, and we did all these different. We did a Muhammad Ali tribute. We did all these different tributes to people, and then we started thinking, well, let's just write our own shows.
Right.
Started doing our own shows, and we did a huge tribute to Black poets, just like the entire spectrum of Black poets, from Phyllis Wheatley all the way to Saul Williams. And then excuse me, so we would take some of their poems, and we would do them, and then we would add our own poetry as a tribute. And so it was a lot of fun.
Right.
And we started that in 2005, and we went straight through for 10 years, and then we kind of took a break because we started to grow apart because we had kids. And,
Yeah.
Life. Absolutely.
so you start to grow apart, and then we came back together a few years later, and now we're on hiatus because of how the world exploded.
Nice.
Right. Have you found this hiatus to be restful? I know a lot of Fraser and I are in real estate, so there's a lot of seminars and things that we're doing online, and a lot of people love it because you don't have to travel, and on top of that, you can expand it now. So before, if you only had a room of 100 people in a hotel, now you can open up to 500 or 1,000 people.
Yes.
And what we started seeing online was a lot of creatives doing either musical concerts online.
Yeah.
I know last summer Jazzy Jeff down here in Philadelphia was killing it, with the stuff that he was doing. It was just like we absolutely needed that at that particular point.
Versus phenomenon.
Yes, exactly. So have you guys decided to go online or thinking about going online, or is it just more of a live interactive thing that you need?
Well, we like it to be live because it's a lot more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult to do. Music is transcends a little better on online than does poetry.
Right.
Poetry, you need to build. You need to build the energy in the room. Whereas with a song, if someone hits that note just right, the energy builds instantly.
Exactly.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way in poetry generally. So it's much more better. It's much more better. That's silly. It's much better to be in a room with people who are creatives that are creating that energy that's going to build and build and build. Because when we write our shows, the objective, just like in a movie, is to build to a climax, then have a resolution, and then the audience that was good.
Right.
It's hard to build to that climax in online. Just similar to what we were talking about earlier about how difficult it is to translate what you would do in a classroom to what you would do online. So, to get back to your question, has it been restful? Yes and no, because we're still creatives. So when we're not creating that, we're going to be creating something else. So what happens is the energy we're not spending on the Black Poet Ventures, we're spending in other places.
Right.
And so,
Nice.
And so it builds in different ways. It like builds laterally instead of vertically.
Right.
So, I got a question for you. I'm gonna go to the technical part of poetry, right? Because everybody can't write poetry because they have different terms of poetry. There's some that rhyme. There's some that don't even make sense, but it makes it certain aspect of what you're talking about. Like, how do you define your terminology versus like several other artists of poetry who combine music with poetry? Who also you hear like audio poetry? You see online where they do poetry and music to help them with the climax, like you were saying before, help with that climax to help build up, or prefer to do it just without audio, just prefer to just feed off the crowd. What would you prefer to do better?
I would prefer to do without music. I love music, but sometimes music can be distracting through the words.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, you know, you hear a good beat, you're not even listening to the words anymore.
That's right. Right.
So for me personally, I like without the music, but I do have business partners who are just like, give me some music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Music.
That's right.
So it depends on the person. For my classes, I teach. We do 20 weeks. We do a 20-week program. I'm in 3 schools right now, two high schools and 1 middle school, junior high. I want to say middle school, but it's junior high, 7th and 8th. And we do 20 weeks. And in those 20 weeks of workshops, I give them as many different types of poetry as I can give them, because I want them to be able to pick and choose what they enjoy and what they want to go forward with. Because the reality is, just because I like a certain type of poetry does not mean that you're going to like the same kind of poetry. Or you're going to like the same type of poetry. So I give them the options by giving them all different types of poetry. So yesterday we were working on haiku, which is 17-syllable poetry, 3 lines. It's a traditional Japanese poem that every person has done, because when you're 2nd, 3rd grade, that's when the poetry when the poetry part of the year comes up, they're like, let's do these haikus.
Yeah.
Everyone's done them. Everyone's done them. But what I teach them is that there are 2 different types of haiku. And one is the traditional Japanese haiku, which is usually centered around nature. Like they like to write about waterfalls and grass and islands, because they're on an island that has waterfalls and lots of grass and beautiful trees and all of that. So that's what they write about. But in America, when we took it, we kind of bastardized it, and we write it about all kinds of things. So as long as it has 17 syllables in it and 3 lines,
I'm good.
You're good. You know?
Okay. Rose red, violet blue.
It could be about sex. It could be about, it could be about the president. It could be politics. It could be whatever. As long as it has 17 syllables, it works. But that's just the American bastardized version. That's just America changes things when they take things.
Yes, they do.
When I went to school, we had a famous roses are red, violets are blue. Girl, you know how I love you. You got to make all type of stuff. But one of them to the line, and like 1,000 other bodies to that song. I mean, how many times you heard that one time come out? Roses are red, violets are blue. I know what it is. Then, wait, I don't remember that part in the poem. Where that come from? That wasn't in there. But it's so creative for this. But let me ask you a question though. What do you think is creative when you see working with younger minds versus older minds? Because younger minds come up with stuff off the top of the head a lot quicker because they're young and still have so much stuff going ahead versus older guys who settle down, relax, got issues, life.
Well, I'm gonna tell you the sweet spot. The sweet spot is about 9th and 10th grade. That's the sweet spot. That's when I can give them an assignment. Basically what happens. This is how the workshops work. I come in with an idea. So I'm going to tell them, okay, I want you to write about such and such. Let's talk about it. And then we'll do
Right.
like a brainstorm for a couple of minutes. And then I'll give them an example from my writings, or I'll pull up a YouTube and give an example from a YouTube. And then I'll say, that's what I'm looking for. Now you write something. Now, when they're in 9th and 10th grade, sometimes up to 12th grade, but usually 9th and 10th graders get it down like that.
Yeah.
They're just like in it. They're like, okay, this is what you want. Boom, 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 boom. Done. 7th and 8th graders, they struggle with the fact that they're all trying to still be cool. And they don't want to, you know what I mean? So sometimes I got to pull it out of them because they're all trying so hard to be cool. And I'm like, poetry's already cool. You ain't got to worry.
We're all right.
In the same room. We're all in the room. So we all enjoy poetry. So now you just got to do it. So sometimes I got to pull it out of them. But for the 11th and 12th graders, they know they're cool. So now they're too cool for school. So they're just like, hey, I'm going to college next year. I don't need this. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
Because that 9th and 10th graders who are just kind of like, yeah, he's teaching me something that I really like to do. I'm going to do it. You know, so when you have that, when you get rid of all the coolness factors, that's where the sweet spot is.
Nice.
Right. Now,
nice.
I've been saving this for a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
George, get him, George. Get him.
No, it's not a matter of getting them. We've been seeing a lot.
Yes, true.
And we've been seeing a lot, or haven't been seeing a lot in journalism. What are some of your opinions, should I say, that we in our community face with journalism and Black journalism? Like, for instance, Roland Martin had to, when he got fired or let go, from his network, he created a digital network.
Right.
And I like what Roland Martin is doing. Sometimes I think it's a little bit too Black, so to speak. I'm always of the mindset where, I always like to keep things astute and professional, because it's not just for us, it's for everybody else that's looking at us. And sometimes when you go too comfortable with us and what we do, there's always those voices that say, yeah, they all like that. Look at them, setting a third, blah, blah, blah. And I think as a professional, a lot of times he forgets that because he's comfortable talking to us. We're his audience 100% of the time, so to speak. And he could care less about the other people that might be watching or looking or, even commenting, so to speak. And it's fine. It's his platform to do that. But we've had a big lack in this country of qualified Black journalism that is particular to us, the way we talk, the way we do things, the way we cook, the way we raise our kids, the way we worship. We've just had a lack of it. Our day is consisted of MSNBC, NBC, CNN. There's nothing really in our space that's dominant. Okay. I'm making this statement to ask you the question. In your opinion, why is that? Do you think we just gave up, or we don't believe the quality of information that's coming from us?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons, actually. That's a very good question. There's a lot of different reasons. First of all, I want to let you know in on something called the Black News Network. I saw it recently. I hadn't seen it forever. And I saw it about 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's a Black News Network. So if you look that up, it's all Black reporters, all Black reporting. Okay, so that's the first thing. But to answer your question, it's very difficult in the news game if you're not covering certain things. Like
Yes.
if you're covering sports or you're covering entertainment, you can be Black all day, every day. People steal our vernacular and try to use it incorrectly.
Exactly.
But you can be Black all day, every day. But the problem is they don't want us to impart our opinion because they want the opinion of the masses to be of the masses. So meaning they want the whitenized version of the opinion because they don't want our real true opinion. This
You
is
say
how-
white Nas? Excuse me, I didn't say. White Nas. Okay, we call it bleach.
Bleach works too. They don't. It's happened several times though. If you
Yes.
remember when Arsenio Hall was on the first time back in the
Mhm.
90s, maybe a little too young for you guys.
No,
But-
not me. He took over for Joan Rivers. He took over for Joan Rivers.
Maybe
remember?
living for me.
Yes. When he was on the first time,
Yeah.
Right.
they pulled him off because he started to get a little too black. They were
Exactly.
okay with the root. They were okay with that because
Yeah.
that was something they could steal and they could use it. You know, they could have old white ladies going whoop whoop whoop. And
Yeah,
Right.
But when he started to have entire shows with Prince, or he started to have entire shows with the minister,
Louis
Farrakhan.
Farrakhan.
Right.
when he,
Yeah.
when he started to give Public Enemy and Professor Griff opportunities to speak their true minds, that's when it was pulled off. And the reality is, when you get a little too far away from what the white man wants, if they control that part of the media, you will not last much longer.
Right.
And that's the way that it works. And same thing happened to the guy that was on the what's the show? Shannon Sharp, not Shannon Sharp. Marcellus Wiley is running it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I can't quite remember the name of the rip, but
right. but the guy who started that show was a portly dude from St. Louis, and I can't remember his name right now. Whitlock, George Whitlock.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, he started the show. That was his actual show, and then he got a little too comfortable, as you put it.
Yeah.
Right.
And they snatched him off his own show and put in another person. And so, and Roland Martin, same idea. It's happened, I'd say, half a dozen times at least.
Yeah.
In the last 10, 15 years. What's her name? Jamel Hill.
Mhm.
Got a little
Yeah.
ESPN.
Yeah.
Got a little too comfortable on an ESPN broadcast, and then boom, she was gone. And so, it makes it difficult for us to give our true perspective because we're always looking over our shoulder, and you cannot give the news its proper due if you're always looking over your shoulder. And so it makes it difficult in the black journalism game. And then the second point, there are so few of us in the game. Like if I go to an arena, even though they're okay with sports being, and I've been in many, many arenas.
Yeah.
They're okay with sports being covered by black folks. When I go into that arena, let's say I'm covering, I'm in Phoenix now, say I'm covering the Suns, there might be 3 of us out of 20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even in the places where they allow us, they don't allow us in great enough numbers where we can affect the actual change that is necessary to bring to black journalism. Now, the Black Journalism Association has tried over and over and over to try to change some of that by lacing together all of the black newspapers and saying, you know what, advertisers, you should support us because we have a network of 150 actual newspapers and websites that you can go to and black news, the black community will support your whoever you're advertising or whatever. Yeah. But the reality is, it still comes back to the same thing. If they don't believe in what we're doing, they won't pay for it. And when they won't pay for it, it makes it more difficult for us to do it.
Sure.
So how do we get there? Do we get there by putting a portion of our money to it? Do we get there by being more outspoken about the topics in each position that you just explained in that particular market? Because my thing is, we only get outraged and start marching when something happens to us, and it's happening to us now so often that you can't even record it anymore. That's why on my personal Facebook page, I stopped even letting people know about mass shootings because I'm going to be posting about these every day. So something has to.
Last night.
Yes,
Exactly.
something has to happen. Exactly. Something has to happen and something has to change. And it seems like every time we're raising alarms and every time we're raising concerns about us, it always gets batted down by our counterparts in the bigger media outlets that they're concerned, but we shouldn't be as concerned as they are. You know, they're hooping and hollering and all this other stuff, and we don't think it's just that serious. We're concerned, but we don't think that it's just that serious. Like for instance, you know, I compare it to, you know, a 9/11 event. They were all hooping and hollering during 9/11 and this, that, and the third, and black hair's on fire and the world's going over, and we don't care, you know, what crater we put in the earth for whoever did this to 9/11, blah, blah, blah. But, but we see this every day in our communities. We see this every day in our communities, from a traffic stop in Virginia to, you know, another traffic stop where the kid just gets shot, you know, for no reason. And it's like, we are always asked the question, not to go off on this rant, but we always ask the question, how does a traffic stop end in the murder of a black man? How does a traffic stop end in the assault of a U.S. Army official? How something as simple as that, but when we see in other media and their counterparts, you got a murderer and a mass shooter that's, you know, he's not being drug out, he's being walked out. You know, you had a guy who had committed so many murders, they even decided to give him some water. You know what I mean? To bandage him up. And it's just, it doesn't match the visual perception that we are getting in our community. And I think, and I'm asking you, what do we need to change that, to have something for us that say we are just as important? Does it has to be privatized? Like, I'm just all these thoughts in my mind because it's happening so much daily, and I feel useless.
Well, to answer the question as simply as possible is we have to have control of the airwaves. In order for us to put stuff out there the way that we want to, we have to have complete control of the airwaves. And the problem is, in every attempt that we've made, we did not have complete control of the airwaves. We had this much control, but not the complete control. For instance, and this is going to sound bad because he's now a convicted sex offender, but Bill Cosby was on the right track.
Yeah.
And when all this went down, and you can decide whether you believe it's because it went down, but when all this went down, he was trying to buy NBC.
Right.
That was his actual plan, was to buy NBC Universal and try to, you know, make more of a network. And those that were in power did not like that. They were not down that. They were not about to let him get control of that. And so all of a sudden, all these women come up. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're not true, because they probably are true. He admitted in a deposition that he would drug women. So they probably are true. I'm not suggesting that. And I'm not suggesting in any way that you should follow in the footsteps of Bill Cosby in that fashion. But what I am suggesting is, for 30 years, nobody cared. And then as soon as he tries to make this power move, boom, just like that, 30 accusations. You know,
well, even
when Tiger Woods became the face of golf, and these white boys couldn't beat him, boom, accusations from all of 20 different Hooters people.
Exactly.
Now, again, I'm not suggesting he didn't do it. He probably did.
Exactly.
Nobody said anything until the timing just seemed a little weird.
And Julie, same thing too. I'm telling you two stories. It's two stories. I looked on TED. I was watching one on TED the other day, right? There's one man, gentleman, he's the author. He write a book. Nobody said nothing about a book. Nobody's in a book. Book pretty famous, everything is. He goes to the airport to travel somewhere. He had to go for a meeting or whatever. He had a box full of books, and and it's okay, no big deal, no problem. Yeah. He walks through. All of a sudden, he gets to the front desk. So no, you gotta go back. You need to go back to TSA. You got a problem with the bag, something. He goes back. They're looking at the books. He says, "Okay, what's the problem? Whatever. That is the wrong thing in the thing." He said, "No, the problem is the literature you put in a book." Now, guess what happened to be on the cover of the book? The Black Panther Party. So now he says okay, what's the problem? Book. So now they say, no, we're gonna call the FBI. He's like, waiting FBI for it. Just there's the books, whatever. So FBI come, interrogate the crap out of him, and you go through the whole list of things, whatever, right? So he asked the guy, am I being arrested? The guy says, no, you good to go. So he said, you need money, walks away, go away. He goes back. He's a professor at a college, right? He goes back. They called him off and said he can't no longer work there because he got a felony. Oh, but he don't know what a felony is. So they told him, call us there. So he called the FBI. I need to ask you a question. They say I have a felony. Look at the system. You have a felony. What is it for? Don't know. You know how I got it? I don't know. You know how I can start it? I don't know. Tell you what, call the tallest state attorney and they tell you what happened. He called them. Exact same question. Got the exact same answer. I don't know. I don't know what happened. We're going. It went over 2 years. Trying to get it off his record. A felony nobody knows about. Nobody know how he gets the felony. Nobody know where he got it from. He was never arrested. He was never arrested. He never get a permit to appear. Then he found later on, because of the fact that he wrote about the Black Panther Party in a book, they consider him a terrorist. Any affiliation of literature that's dealing with that, they consider a terrorist. Right? Now, I'm going to the second story. This story, a guy who actually was a journalist, wrote a book. He got to know the Grand Wizard, the Grand Dragon of the KKK.
Right.
Everybody knows the story. He probably knows the only black man to go to the KKK rally.
Right.
Walk out alive. And give a dap and get a hug and get drinks. So he used his literature to get to the guy, right? And in interviews, the guy kept saying, I never change my opinion. You're still beneath me. He said himself, I'm here learning. So I'm going to learn why you hate me. I'm going to learn why you feel the way you feel about me. Right. So, big story short, they got together to know each other. 2 years passed, 12 years passed. Now, go back to you saying how all of a sudden you get attention. So now all of a sudden, the white man's wait, whoa, hold on. You got a black man integrated in a white society meeting. He ain't getting lynched. He ain't getting killed. What's the problem here? So
Right.
CNN want to get involved. So guess CNN says, how I want to interview Kelly and you in the same room. He says, hey, no problem. Call him on, tell him, me in the room. Now, they got so comfortable till he leaves without his bodyguards. They had a meeting and CNN in the room and she asked him, why do you hate blacks? It was still in my brain. It was concrete in my brain from childhood not to like blacks and everything else. And that shows how society has seen everything because it's concrete in their head and it won't change. He refused to change. But after seeing the truth of the individual,
Right.
the actual person,
Right.
he got to know. He later started to change, did not know he was changing. So the thing is, we got to change without them knowing that we're changing them. You can't go out and say, hey, I'm going to get a network and say, you're going to change. No, you can't do that. As you said before, we make it openly, we'll never get it done.
Yeah, but the problem with that is, and I hate to say this phrase, is they will always say, they will use, I have a black friend excuse. Oh, I can't be this. I got black friends.
Exactly.
And then you have people that look like us, but have no connection to anything about us or how we act, like Candace Owens and a few others I'm going to name. Okay. That you can't even recognize that they have melanin in their skin. All right.
Thomas.
Yes. You know, and those are the things that we struggle with. But still, all in all, I believe what everybody's saying here. Like I tell my son, okay, your counterpart can be 70%, but you have to be 200%. And we see that in life. We see that in our salaries. A black man makes 80% less than his counterpart. A black woman makes 70% less than her counterpart. You know, we see that even in real estate. Do you realize that as people of color, we're always charged an extra point to a point and a half for the mortgages that we buy? You know, it's funny.
I'm in the process of buying a house right now.
Yes.
Oh, so you see a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so the thing is, I mean, your name is Robert Daniels, so you may get past it because the people that do the loan processing are different than the people that do the application. Right. So your name looks and appears white. But if it was Shaniqua Jones, boom, it'd be over. Wrap. You see what I'm saying? And the only reason why I knew that is when I bought this house here. You know, I was told by the loan processor, who was a person of color, that said, I've been doing this for 15 to 20 years. And that's exactly what happens. That's why on my loan application he put white, because Boley is actually a white name, not
Yeah.
you know what I mean, a black name. He put white on my application, not black. My concern was everything was all said and done. I didn't want to be charged with, any type of application fraud or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't even got to worry about it because it's not that serious.
Yeah.
As long as you pay your mortgage and not doing this as
Right.
a scam, you'll be fine. You see what
Exactly.
I'm saying? But
Yeah.
we are always underneath. And, like I was joking the other day, Black History Month. Everybody else gets 30, 31 days. We only get 28. You see what I mean?
Yeah. You said a funny story about that day, right? I'm telling you this funny story. You ever heard the story how they said we got in February? It was a debate on, it was supposed to be January. And then probably the day after, month afterwards, right? But they said, you know what? They got a room. Once the guy got together, said, you know what? We're going to make them happy. Pick a day. The day they picked, Mama is a leap year also.
Right.
It was 28th and 29th day. So when they actually did it, it was 29 days. So when they realized, whoa, we got gypped today. They're like this. You asked for a month. We gave you a month. So why did you complain about? Right? That's how they did everything. You ever know everything they do this. Here, take that. You quiet? You keep it. You voice your opinion? Oh, no, we'll take it back. You don't need it. You don't take it back. So we got to choose. Keep it or give it back.
Right.
We'll make the best of it, And guess what? When's the most months with more holidays? It's February. Even though the shortest of the year of the months, he had more holidays in February than most other months. So
here's all the piece of that joke. Okay, they always say we lazy anyway. That's why we got more holidays in February.
Exactly. Now you get it. See, I ain't know what I'm talking about. But see, now I'm gonna ask you a question because this is a question I think all journalists, black journalists who deal with and authors deal with. How do you avoid having to tweak your information in order not to be, how you say, political correct, or to be flagged, or to even be blackballed in certain markets and disguise it? Because if you put certain things in your book, they'll flag it or they'll take off the market. How do you help artists avoid that?
You just have to make the decision. You just have to make the decision. How important is it for you to have this in your book or to have this in your article, and then go with what makes you feel right. The way that I feel it, and I've always felt this, is you write what you want to write, and if someone else is not okay with that, then hey, you can't worry about that. Let's move forward. You can't worry about trying to please everyone else, and then you're unhappy.
Right.
So I can't worry about that. And the other thing is, if I decide that I want to change anything based on some sort of political correctness, I will just use a word that nobody understands.
There you go.
Use a big word that nobody understands, and by the time they go look at the dictionary, it's too late. And if they don't look in the dictionary, they'll never know what it means.
Exactly.
So you just throw in a big word, one of those $1 million words, because in journalism, you're supposed to dumb down to the audience. In reality, you're supposed to write at a 5th to 8th grade level.
That's right.
So if there's some sort of thing that I'm trying to massage through, I just throw in a college professor word, and then people just like, because most people will never tell you they don't know what that word means.
Exactly.
Right. They're never going to tell you that. They're just going to be like, oh, okay, and they just keep going.
Exactly.
What I find amazing is my daughter, who is 7, is just the opposite. Whenever I use a word that she doesn't understand, she's going to ask me.
Right.
Exactly.
What does certainty mean?
Right.
Well, I can't. So whenever I try to use a big word around her, she will call me on it and be like, I hope you know what that means, Daddy, because I'm going to ask you.
No, exactly.
So I can't do that with her.
Oh, man. That's so true. I got to remember one in school. I used to tell one in school, a word called equinox. That's not wrong pronounce it right. It means but. So I used to kiss my equinox. She's like, what you just call? No, I said the fruit, ma'am. It's the fruit. I like to kiss the fruit. Like, you know what I meant. You're a freaking English major. You know what I'm talking about?
That's
So
right.
that's how you degrade a lot of teachers on their intellect because, like, wait, that's a word you should know. You said you go to college. What college you went to again? Oh, I went to. I'm not going there.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Robert, listen, we're running out of time. Let everybody. Well, first of all, what tips can you give to people that want to get into poetry?
Everywhere in the world, there are poets. Go to a local poetry house, listen to some people on the stage, and then the one that you like, walk up to them, ask him or her, or they, as it be, and ask them about how they could give you more information about what they do, and then just get into some sort of mentorship. Period. There's plenty of poets that'll just be like, yeah, I'll explain everything you want to know to especially a young person. Anytime a young person comes up to me, regardless of what the question is, I'm going to answer it. Right. Because I believe that the only way that we demystify who we are as people, and that goes for being Black people or poets, either way you can use it interchangeably. The only way we can demystify ourselves as people is to speak to the youth. Right. Because the youth is always going to be able to speak to each other. Right. And you know, I may not know, Snapchat, or I may not know
TikTok,
TikTok.
But I know that my child does. And I know that child will talk to another child, and there will be all kinds of TikToks and snaps and tweets that will go well beyond what I said to this one person.
Right.
Exactly. So now, tell everybody where they can find you at, and they want to get advice from you, or want to seek your tutorage or coaching. Where they can find you at?
I'm on Facebook. I don't do Snapchat, but I'm on Facebook. Robert Flipside Daniels. You know why I don't do Snapchat? Because it disappears.
Right.
Yeah. And I want my words to be lasting because I mean them.
Right.
So I'm not going to say things I don't mean. And my man Chance the Rapper says in one of his songs, if I said it, I meant it. If I'm dead, it's cemented.
That's right.
True.
So I believe in leaving things out there. When people come back and they read these tweets from like 15 years ago when this white dude said something in college and he about to be drafted, or he said something in high school and he about to be drafted, and everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
He meant it at that point in time. He meant it.
Right.
And if somebody wants to go back and look at all the stuff that I've ever written, I meant them, and I meant them at the time. And in most cases, I probably still mean them now.
Right.
Yep.
So the reality is, Robert Flipside Daniels on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. Flipside underscore poet.
Right.
Then I'm also on Twitter, but I don't really tweet a lot. But Flipside Poetry at Flipside Poetry. And
we want to thank you for being on the show with us, brother, and imparting that knowledge and just taking time to talk to us on a Friday.
No doubt. Yeah. I appreciate this. And
we appreciate you.
I always say everything. Appreciate you, and welcome to the Georgia Fraser family always, brother.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No doubt. Be blessed.
Do I get to spit a piece or what? Do I get to spit a piece?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I get to spit a piece.
You family now.
Okay. This is a poem I call one of my signature pieces. It's called Innovation. I am innovation brought to life, not because I'm a poet, not because I use words to tell stories millions of others have done that before me, but because I use my words to change the lives of others. I tell stories to change the world around me for the better. A school kid has never heard a story told the way I tell it because I infuse life into black words written on white paper. I use voice inflections and hand gestures to convey emotions not easily understood in a two-dimensional paperback. The spoken word can make a grown man cry. or inspire a child to learn to rise and gain respect for the written word and succeed in orating messages once thought too difficult to talk about. Painful thoughts about hate, violence, and sexual misconduct, because poetry is therapeutic. Stories can heal all that ails you and more. I write poems that illuminate the devastation of the AIDS epidemic. I deliver messages of hope because mine always seem to get lost in the mail. I use comedic metaphors because to laugh is to smile loudly. And I tell my story with the hopes it will inspire you to tell yours. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, what is it worth if I help create a picture with my words? Grab your paintbrush and set up your mental easel, because I have a Wikipedia of thoughts ready for your museum. Imagine a world where men feel an obligation to their children, even if the baby's mama is crazy. Where education can compete with recreation because it just makes sense to pay teachers more dollars. In my world, racial harmony and diversity are less cliche and more honest. More reality and less show. If water falling from the sky can tie colors into rainbows, maybe we should do a rain dance for all the hues of humanity. To get together my people with your people and their people, because unity is love. In my world, even one child living in poverty is unacceptable to every person with more than $1 billion. Did you know there are 1,011 billionaires in the world today? If each one of them just pledged $10 million per year, we could end poverty today. Let's face it, dying with the most money does not make you the winner, nor does it make you less of a sinner. What would Jesus do? In my world, every person feels a responsibility to themselves and an obligation to the world around them. If innovation is the ability to think outside the box, well then call me Jack, because I jump out as much as possible with illusions of grandeur and visions of greatness, mental food for the famished and hope for the hopeless, because my poetry is how I intend to change the world.
That's it. There you heard it. Real talk. We can't even speak after that, brother. Be blessed.
I can't say after that, man. I'm speechless. That's hard to do.
I appreciate that. Thank you, brothers, for being here, and keep the art alive. You are the new journalist. You Absolutely. Are the journalist. Keep it alive. Appreciate
you, brother. That means a lot, man.
One.
Man.
Hey, this is George.
Hey, this is Fraser.
And that was Real Talk with George and Fraser. Y'all have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend, y'all. Peace.